What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. So today we're going over something a little bit more independent. We are going to go over the debut album from the band, The Funeral Procession, with their album, In Still Silence.
This came out on the 17th of January, formed in 2011 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Band actually went on hiatus for 12 years and then reformed in 2023. Again, this is their first full length. They are considered a progressive blackened death metal band. Founding member and guitarist Nicoa Arnold played in a band called Hunt the Dinosaur from 2017 to 2020.
I remember that band.
Mm-hmm. And then Nicoa and vocalist Brian Cox quickly wrote this album, grabbed some other musician buddies, and put the album out. And that's pretty much all there is as far as the history of these guys. They are in fact unsigned, and the band themselves recorded and produced this record in a 9x12 practice space.
Cramped quarters. Jeez.
And then mixed and mastered by Greg Fender, guy I've never heard of, but I looked him up, and he just mixes and masters independent bands, so I think that's a great thing to have. Album kicks off with the song Bitter Remnants. Wastes no time whatsoever. Just explodes into brutal, cold, dark guitar grooves.
Yeah, surprisingly brutal, like, you know, almost bordering on the edge of like brutal death metal, albeit like some really more melodic and intricate riffs. And once the vocal flips start happening, you can definitely get a vibe for what I would say is a big influence on here, and that would be OPETH. Specifically, I heard a lot of stuff like circa My Arms Your Hearse or Still Life, kind of a little bit before Blackwater Park, though you do get like some Deliverance style heaviness every and then. Yep. But yeah, this band definitely loves OPETH, and on the other side, and their more clean, soft moments, because there's a lot of that in here too. Man, their frontman sounds a lot like Jonas Rensk from Katatonia, like kind of blindfold taste test sort of thing. Like, yeah, he's really close. He's got the breathy delivery. This sounds very familiar because it sounds like two bands I've been listening to for what seems like all my life.
Yeah, those were the two things I got immediately. Like, from the moment I turned this on, I went, ooh, OPETH. And then he sang the clean vocals, and I went, ooh, Katatonia. And I mean, like, right then and there, those two things sell it for me, as I'm a giant fan of both those bands.
I mean, even in the more brutal moments, I could hear a little bit of Bloodbath. So, I mean, it all kind of intersects here. And for the most part, I really just kind of, like, dug this namely because it sounded very familiar, but there's a lot of dynamics, lots of intricate riff works. The stark contrast between the heavier, more brutal moments, like Bitter Remnants and the song Critical Apparition, absolutely savage, brutal sections, like blast beats, heavy, chunky riffs. They're notably more aggressive. And then the more soft, beautiful moments like you hear on Winter's Grasp and Siren's Lament.
Forsaken.
It creates such a cool contrast, like, especially on the vocals, because, you know, in between the giant death metal roars, you have black metal screams too. And just between the roars and the clean vocals, it's like shifting from, you know, again, like Jonas Rensk on those clean vocals to all of a sudden, like, John McEntee or Ross Dolan doing harsh vocals. Like, it is that stark of a change. And
even in the title track, I thought that the harsher screams on there sounded a lot like Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder.
A little bit. They do get like a little bit more cold. In terms of like black metal, I don't hear a lot of it. I hear it more as like an accent. But I think the thing that supplies a lot of that dreary atmosphere are the keys on here. There's lots of lush synths, and honestly, the moments I really dig them are when they are in the cleaner passages, because you get some great harmonies between the clean guitars and these just big, lush, very gothic, melancholic synths, especially on Winter's Grasp, which I actually wrote Grasp of Perdition because the opening of that kind of sounds like Ghost of Perdition. Not a bad thing to sound like at all, but there's a section where there are these, you know, heavy tremolo harmonies, and the synths behind them just creates this cold wall of just sort of darkness, but it's very entrancing. Like, it's not sinister or anything like that. Like, it's just like, yeah, I feel that. It's definitely raining outside, or because it's January, it could still be raining because it's Ohio weather, but I mean, it's more likely sleeting and just covering your car in a thin candy shell.
I was going to say, they had somewhat winter in Texas a couple years ago. Maybe it was also written by Winter's Grasp there, because I know we're not alone anymore.
I mean, Winter had more than a grasp on him. That was like a chokehold.
Yeah.
In terms of the songwriting here, like, it's not like so overloaded with like technical spots. Like, it's not trying to be like a very flashy style of progressive metal. It's more about like the longer, lavish songwriting, and they're more than willing to let the atmosphere sort of take over sections. Like, instead of like supplying like a very intricate, technical, dissonant, atonal, weird riff, like, no, we can just sort of strum on this and kind of let the atmosphere take it, and the breathy vocals and the synths. And I really like that, especially on Winter's Grasp, which possibly is my favorite track on here. There's something about the way that song flows in particular. Like, it has this really cool sort of like steady wave of a build, you know, harsh at first, gets into softer moments, blast beat sections. There's an excellent crescendo at the end too. And I mean, it's kind of a flat out catchy song. Like, I think this is where the clean vocals really shine for me.
And I think the vocals take control of a lot of the hooks. Like, there are some great melodic hooks in Forsaken and Winter's Grasp. Critical Apparition has quite a few of them. But I think the clean vocals really stand out in making the hook in the song.
And I really like that because, like, the cleaner sections, I think, just kind of have this sort of, like, natural beauty. Like, the setting of this album does not feel like Texas at all, at least in my opinion. Like, this sounds like someplace cold and very north. But the whole like vibe of those sections, like, you can just kind of really feel like it's a slightly less depressing My Dying Bride at times. Like, again, there's big waves of like sadness and, you know, forlonging and all that stuff kind of just going through there. But again, that shift to the brutality, because when it comes down to like the heavier sections on here, I mean, there are some flat out brutal moments, and they are driven by a very chunky, heavy guitar. Like, honestly, even in like comparison to like OPETH, they feel even heavier than OPETH's guitars, because they always felt very balanced in their mixes.
Yeah.
These are very, I would say, like, overdriven. Like, they're extra chunky. They're very much in your face.
Yep.
And at times, I think that really works, especially in the heavier sections, like the end of the title track. There's a great section of galloping chugs, and this tone just kind of rocks it out. The more technical and brutal sections on Critical Apparition, but it's those transitional moments where they're kind of moving into softer territory. You start hearing them lead in with a melody that's more strummed, and then it starts feeling a little bit too gritty for that sound. I felt like there should be like sort of like a mid-tone in there just to kind of like segue into those cleaner moments.
Yeah, because like you said with the heavier guitar, like, it is chunky. Like, every down pick, you can feel it. But then, yeah, when they go to transition into something softer, that chuggy tone is almost overpowering to lead into that cleaner section.
And in terms of like maybe another gripe, and it's still kind of slight, but it was noticeable, I do think this band gets a little transition happy at times. The title track, while I enjoy most of it, and it is a 10-minute track, and all of these songs are 6-minute plus.
Yep.
Like, you get big, epic songs on every track on here. But the last track, being the longest one, I feel like there's a point where it kind of loses the flow. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in it. You have those more pronounced black metal sections on there, the more shrieked vocals playing off the growls and then going into clean vocals. But there's this whole middle section where I feel like it gets a little too busy in terms of the transitions. Like, they happen a little too quickly, and you don't get a chance to really settle in. Like, part of me was kind of comparing that to the song Deliverance. And one of the reasons why I like that song is each transition has time to build. You get
time to breathe.
Yeah, you have time to breathe and time to get into it, and they add melodies on top of it. These transitions kind of come one after the other. It isn't until they kind of get back to this blast beat pattern with this really chuggy riff that it kind of corrects course, and then you get this really awesome, mostly instrumental outro on it, and a huge crescendo that just absolutely kills, and the nice little like acoustic fade out.
And although the title track has this big epic lead out, I also thought it faded out a little too soon. Like, it's a really hard fade from heavy into somber. Like you could hear the volume go down. It's not a gradual thing. It was really sharp.
They faded out on a lead too. I never like when they fade out on a lead. But I mean, the song itself was good, and I kind of like how they faded up and then back out with an acoustic passage. Like, it does close out the album well.
And then you have one of my favorite tracks, Critical Apparition, that is a beast of a song. Like, in the beginning of that song, it is super chuggy, super brutal, balls out. One of my gripes, though, maybe, is that there's a clean break in it. Now, there's a clean break in every song, and I'm not saying that those clean breaks are bad, but in the case of this song, I think that this song would have made more of an impact, more of a statement maybe, to leave it all heavy. Because this song is, when it is heavy, it is super heavy, and like, it's dominantly heavy.
Yeah.
But then there's this section where you get a clean break, and I'm just like, maybe it kills the momentum of that song a little bit.
Yeah, no, I was right on board with that because the heavy moments are very distinct. They're very dynamic. There's even parts in there that kind of sound like Hate Eternal a little bit.
Yep.
But when it came down to the clean sections, they felt, just kind of stock for what they were already doing on the album. And where those clean moments fit in, they fit in really well. Yeah. This was one where they just kind of felt forced, like, oh, we didn't put, a softer, passage in this song. Honestly, it didn't need it. And those transitions into those moments were a little clunky at times. Like, there's some clever ones, but there's also some ones that feel very knee-jerk. Like, you can almost hear where they're like, this is kind of where it's got to fit in. I think that if they kind of cut those parts out and just kind of hammer through a just more aggressive track, like, this could be the one they play live where they just tell the crowd, like, all right, this is like the really heavy one. I know some of this is very sing-songy, but this is the part where you really get to hurt each other. And that's important at a metal show.
I also agree. You got to have at least one time where the band tells you to turn around and punch your buddy in the face.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens at a metal show.
Whether he's your buddy after that moment, that's kind of up to him. Just, if you manage to knock him out, just wake up and say, oh, dude, it was weird. You fell down.
We've all been laid out by a wayward elbow. It happens.
Also, that would probably trim off a little bit of time on this one, and you would have like one slightly shorter track that is just kind of balls out aggressive. And then right into Winter's Grass, which is the next track, which I think just kind of embodies everything that this band does well.
Correct. So overall, I'm going to give this record 4 stars. Look, right off the bat, I was immediately reminded by 2 of my more favorite bands in metal, Katatonia and OPETH. Those are 2 staples in my listening palette, as you will. This is also pretty incredible for a band's first release that they recorded and produced themselves. Like, this is a great offering. The songs flow really well for the most part. When it's heavy, and when it's more somber and quiet, it's presented really well. The vocalist is talented. To be able to go from heavy growls to beautiful, lush, pretty vocals. The songs are entertaining, and while I think it may get a little transition happy from time to time, it's still a pretty good offering. Overall, if you're fans of Katatonia, OPETH, My Dying Bride, maybe a little Bloodbath, I would definitely recommend checking this one out.
I'm going to go ahead and give this 3.5 stars. I dig it. I think overall this is a pretty solid album. Again, especially for a first effort that was done in-house in a very tiny room.
Very tiny room.
Not everything's bigger in Texas. Sometimes the rooms are small. But, I mean, again, I'm kind of like him. It reminded me of 2 bands that I hold in high esteem right away. And it's executed really well. Like, this is tight and brutal at times, but it's also very lush and majestic and very somber and dreary. Like, there's a lot of mood shifting around going on here, and impressive musicianship. Love the vocal work. I think the vocals on here are excellent. The growls have a lot of range too. You get a good mix of like really intricate technical riffs, more melancholic melodies, and then just flat out savage brutality. Winter's Grasp is definitely probably the big standout for me, mainly because that one just has like the strongest OPETH vibes, and they really just nail that sound. And OPETH doesn't seem to want to nail that sound anymore, so someone's got to do it. Right. And I thank you guys for that. Again, I do think it is a little transition happy at times, and there are some moments that didn't necessarily gel with me, but overall I think this is a solid effort, and again, a good first effort to get yourself out there. Pretty much, yeah, if you are a fan of OPETH, Katatonia, but also bands like In Mourning, I would even say like a touch of Hypocrisy too, and yeah, definitely some Bloodbath in those heavier sections. check this out. Give them a whirl. I know they're on Spotify. I don't know if they have any physical media at all.
Well, so they're waiting on it, actually. The CDs were late. I talked to their guitarist last night. They were supposed to have them, but they don't have them yet, but they should have them soon. So there will be physical media. I'm not quite sure where to get it yet, but we'll find out.
Yeah. But yeah, either way, check this out. Solid album. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, up around the banner, just in case you can't see it. It's like right in the corner of the banner. Anyway, that is where it is. And if you would actually like to get some Thralls of Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsofmetal.com. We have new t-shirts. We have old t-shirts. They are discounted if we have your size. We also have hats now. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, thrallsofmetal.com, down in the description.
And as always, tons of stuff going on here at Thralls of Metal. We have so many more reviews coming, as it's still only the, third week in January here. We've got the discography rankings coming. The Black Dahlia Murder is next, and then the Almighty Meshuggah. We've got retro reviews. We've got States of Metal. We got What's John Jamming returning, and probably just a ton of other stuff coming in your direction. We really couldn't do it without you guys, though. Thank you so much for continuing to tune in and support this channel. It's become far bigger than I ever thought it would be, ever, really. It's the continued support from you guys that make it all worthwhile, really.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. You definitely keep us going. I'm going to eventually get back to answering comments. I've been kind of busy here lately. But it's just amazing to see the response that we get. And yeah, tons of stuff coming. So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome. And we will catch you later.